Hi there! Games are cool. They're hard, they're genius, but overall, they're complete lies. Lies which our tiny little monkey brains just love to eat up. Look at that monkey. What do I mean by that? Not the monkey part, but what I mean is, what you're looking at in a game isn't real.
Oh really? Good job, genius! Yeah!
Yeah, really. Look, a game is made out of really good rendering engines. These engines are built to put 2D images on your screen, and using loads of stupidly complex maths, they'll render out a sequence of these images, displacing the objects on the screen based on their X, Y, and Z values to create like a 3D effect. And even that is more 3D than original 3D games like Wolfenstein 3D, which isn't even 3D. Get that out of here. But engines aren't all that make a game run. There's also really clever people feeding that rendering engine with coding, animations, models, sounds, and much more. And part of these clever people's jobs is to lie directly to you. And they don't even feel bad about it. Not one bit. A lot of the time, these lies are done to actually make you feel better about yourself, things like Doom Eternal's lower health values actually being double of what they say, or the fact that Assassin's Creed AI have the peripheral vision of a donut dunked in chili sauce. Valve's games are huge on this sort of thing. Left 4 Dead's director doesn't want you pressured when you're on low health, but it will throw everything at you when you're on full. And Half-Life Alyx doesn't care what rotation you stick the valve in, as long as its location is mostly correct. I hope that pointing out these lies doesn't affect your self-esteem. But did you really think you hit that shot? You weren't even close. What is this? How is that fair? You weren't even aiming at me! Regardless, games do a lot of things that involve lying to you in order to make the experience better, and as a subcategory, there's also a lot of deceit, and that's what we're focusing on today. The other week, I was playing Uncharted Lost Legacy, and there's a section later on where you come across this shadow puzzle, and I realised while playing that the solution wasn't quite what it seemed. So I did what anyone who's proud of themselves does.
Hello.
Hey, I think I just sorted out how I've just worked out how the Uncharted shadow puzzle works.
What?
The shadow puzzle from Uncharted. I've just worked out how it works. It's
All right,
basically
let me just stop you there. Come on. You know I haven't played the game. Honestly, I couldn't care less about what you're about to say because I haven't played the game. Like, just say I'm saving you oxygen by just stopping you there. Honestly, like, why do you think that was a smart question to ask? You know full well I haven't played the game. It's 2 a.m.
I'm just gonna make a video about it. And that's where we are now. So, in this puzzle, you're required to line up the shadows of objects by moving the plates that the shadowcasters rest upon. Once the shadows perfectly overlap the paintings on the wall, then the puzzle is solved and it lets you into the next room. But in actuality, the shadows have absolutely no bearing on the puzzle itself, at least as far as the computer is concerned. See, light is a really hard thing to render. It's why real-time RTX was such a hyped feature when it was announced. Lighting is usually restricted to as quick of a calculation as possible. Level designers and lighting artists often bake the lighting into the levels, just to avoid ever needing to render complex light situations in real time. This saves a lot of memory for the game to use elsewhere. Because of this, it would be really costly to calculate where the shadows of these objects land just to see if they line up with the corresponding picture. Which is why, if they have done that, that'd be really dumb. Though I doubt they have, so let me offer what I assume their solution would be. Of course, there's always a chance that they've taken a slightly different approach to what I'm about to suggest, as I didn't work on this game, but the one I'm going to explain would still work just as well in this situation. Rather than putting our attentions on the shadows, let's look into the middle of the room. You'll notice this puzzle requires you to slide these pillars around a grid formation. See where I'm going with this? What this leaves us with is a glorified Snow Peak block puzzle from Twilight Princess, and that game came out in 2006. See, it's not all about where the shadows lie, it's about where the objects are. Each time a pillar is moved, it checks it's in the correct place, and once all the pillars are in their respective spots, it ticks a box and progresses you through the game, rendering the shadows completely inconsequential. Not to us, but to the game. Understanding this made me think about what other games use shadows in their puzzles, and the most obvious one that sprung to mind was Resident Evil 7's shadow paintings, and while I was searching for that video, I also came across Shadowmatic, a colourful mobile app that makes this concept its entire game loop. But these puzzles are slightly different. There's no grid, and location has absolutely no bearing on the solutions, so does that mean that this puzzle actually gathers data from the shadow's position? No, why would it? It's just as simple as before, but instead of using location, it's using rotation. And so yet again, the developers may have deceived you into thinking their game engine was smarter than it is, and it's not. Don't give them the satisfaction. Just, you know, give them a medal and pat on the head and say, good job. I'm proud of you. Mwah. I think the easiest way to explain this one would actually be to just straight up make it.
Is he trying to show off again? Yep.
I'm going to be using Unreal Engine.
What a surprise!
So we'll start off by making a scene. Just a block here, put this one here, this, take this.
Actually, yeah,
Put that, and just to add the finishing touches. Perfect. What? I may have skipped about an hour of me just slapping Megascans assets at that grey box since they're free to use for anyone who uses Unreal. Now onto the really easy scripting section. We're going to use blueprints because the idea of a section of C++ code not working because of a spelling error made 3 days ago would make me want to commit die. So I'm going to create the Shadowcaster object and place that into our actor. Then in the event graph, I'm going to change the actor rotation based on the inputs from the thumbsticks. There's a couple of ways we could go about testing whether the actor is rotated correctly, but first we've got to work out which way the correct way is. That's simple. Just drop the actor in the world, then rotate them until they're facing the right way. Whatever the rotation is in the object panel is where you want the player to rotate it to. Now that we have that, we could go about checking if the object is near enough correct to that. We could have the check run on a separate button prompt. This will take some of the stress off the CPU whenever we rotate the object, but since there's barely anything in the scene, I'm just going to check it every time the object is moved. Once it's detected that it's rotated correctly, we'll trigger this doorway to open, and that'll be the entire shadow puzzle solved. Wasn't that easy? We've got a puzzle, but I kind of wanted a scene to go with it, so I made this completely non-derivative character here. She's an adventurer who steals from crypts. She's the crypt stealer. Her name's Cara Lroft. Okay. This was the part where I was supposed to showcase all my great animation skills and how far I've come since that. I never put any of my animations on my channel these days, and I probably should. Though instead, Maya decided it didn't want to do that, and it instead wanted to crash every 2 minutes and just not do what I asked. 2 keyframes, that's it, and you're already broken. I spent 6 hours on and off trying to sort out getting a single animation out of Maya, and every time it would either corrupt, export incorrectly, or just crash. 6 hours. And I made a working solar system and more in 3. Link in the description. So instead of wasting any more time on it, I've just used the IK in Unreal Engine, at least to move Cara's head around so she's not quite lifeless, and instead converted the whole thing into a really slow cutscene. Anyways, here's the full thing. How very subtle. So I hope that's explained how deceit is a game designer's best friend, and how well limitations can be manipulated with just a bit of clever thinking. There's plenty more examples of situations like this in games, but that's outside the scope of this video. Till next time.